welcome to Friday. I hope you've had a good week and this video finds you well. My nausea has finally gone away mostly and I've been eating like crazy. I have a real bump now, so that's a change. Still can't feel baby move, but that should be happening soon. Anyway, if you like this video, please consider leaving a comment or pressing the like button, which helps with engagement. On to the content. In a message capping the 70th anniversary of her accession, I don't know. Queen Elizabeth put out a statement in which she publicly endorsed a barely concealed wish of the Prince of Wales, that Camilla would not be known as the princess consort upon his accession. That word, it's going to get me this whole time. Anyway, she announced that Camilla, it's supposedly her wish, that Camilla would not be known as the princess consort, meaning that along with a King Charles, the UK is getting a Queen Camilla. Now, of course, this is a change. When Charles and Camilla married, it was considered so unpopular that Camilla does not use the Princess of Wales title. And since their marriage in 2005, it was made public that Camilla would not either actually get the title Queen Consort or would not go by that title and instead be known as the Princess Consort, which again was seen as a step taken due to her pretty extreme unpopularity at the time and was spun as a nod of respect to Diana. Charles had, of course, been quietly attempting to rehabilitate Camilla's image for years, with Operation Parker Bowles, or Operation PB, starting as far back as 1996. Operation PB would include designated private secretaries and PR moguls. Charles would go on to pay for security for Camilla since she was a non-royal. She was repeatedly smuggled into Highgrove. Palace spin doctors started leaking that William and Harry got along with Camilla. This is an important point that we're going to come back to later. Anyway, Camilla goes by the title Duchess of Cornwall and has been participating in public engagement since 2005, with a focus on reading and victims of domestic violence. While it is undoubtedly true that Operation PB was successful to a degree, Charles and Camilla benefited from some environmental factors as well. The early 2000s were a period of turmoil in the UK, like everywhere else, with the so-called War on Terror starting and lots of public division over England's entrance into what was seen as America's war. So, the public was distracted. Also, to be frank, tabloid and press culture is a horse race. By the time they married, Charles and Camilla were solidly middle-aged and kind of boring. It's not a sexy story. With William and Harry entering their teenage/early adulthood at the same time, they made for much more interesting royal stories, and still do. If you take away the backlash after the last season of The Crown, any engagement, announcement, or tour made by Charles and Camilla gets maybe a quarter of the attention, if that, than anything the Cambridges or Sussexes do. Over the past 20-ish years, Charles and Camilla have basically been quietly working. And while there are endless rumors that Charles hasn't appreciated being overshadowed by his sons, he should probably get over it. Because these past 20-ish quiet years have, in a way, rehabbed both of their images. Not to say that rehab has been complete. The Queen's statement was and is a big deal, especially when you consider the timing. While the hatred thrown out towards Camilla has greatly diminished over the years, there was consternation that the announcement seemingly overshadowed the importance of the start of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Of course, the timing is not a coincidence, especially when you consider that Rhoda has already come out to say that this decision wasn't recent, that they have known privately for years that the decision to Queen Camilla had been made. To me, the announcement and the timing demonstrated two things. First, the rumored Charles soft regency is in full swing, or at the very least, Buckingham Palace staffers are starting to defer to him as they know a new boss is coming. Secondly, it reinforces the very real fears the royal family has about the situation after the Queen goes. When you look at the phrasing, it is my wish. They are basically using the Queen's Teflon shield to announce this for Charles. Again, it shows where their concerns are. I need to preface this section of the video by saying that Charles does not catch enough heat for the affair. And like always, Camilla, the female affair partner, has been labeled with sexist nicknames and left to hold most of the water. I don't agree with that process. That being said, you cannot mention Camilla without mentioning Diana. I think we all know the story. Of course, both sides have major differences. The royal version going something like Charles and Camilla's romantic relationship had paused during the early years of his and Diana's, that Diana was difficult/mentally ill and did not understand her role, that Charles and Camilla only reunited after his marriage with Diana was already falling apart. With Diana's version of the story being that Charles and Camilla's romance never ended, that she was taunted by her husband's affair partner, and that her marriage always involved 3 people. I think outside of the royal bubble, more people believe Diana's version of events. I think many, myself included, are more inclined to sympathize with a woman who was thrown into a world she did not understand at 20 years old, who was dealing with an unsympathetic husband, the royal institution, and her husband's mistress, all of whom were significantly older. I often say that I don't think the royal family as an institution, or specifically Charles, was ever truly forgiven for their treatment of Diana. Many still hold a belief that that treatment directly led to her death. Charles nor Camilla have ever apologized for their behavior as alleged by Diana, which is not surprising. What is somewhat surprising is that, in my opinion, a lot of people saw the, quote, demotion of Camilla's titles as kind of an apology or as a sign of regret from Charles and Camilla. And I don't think that announcing that you are reneging on an almost 20-year-old promise on what very well may be the eve of your accession is a good look. The other angle to this conversation is to point out how much was done over the course of almost 5 decades to make Camilla more palatable to the general public. It's in stark contrast to what was offered to Diana, and then more recently, Charles's daughter-in-law, Meghan. Now, of course, this conversation brings up many topics that we've talked about before, including heir versus spare, the golden child versus the scapegoat, guys. The scapegoat, golden child versus the scapegoat. But the point I'm really trying to boil down to here is the main defense the royal family puts forward when it comes to both Diana and Meghan is that this was all the press is doing, they did their best to defend both women. And through the protection extended to Camilla, both behind the scenes and very much in plain sight, that line of defense is just blatantly not true. We are also going back to the point I brought up earlier in the video, that William and Harry's supposed acceptance of Camilla is a main pillar of Operation PB, or Operation Everybody Like Camilla. The flurry of news articles claiming the palace is concerned specifically over what Harry might say about Camilla in his upcoming book makes a whole lot more sense in the light of this announcement. If Harry comes out and talks about a bumpier process with his relationship with Camilla, or God forbid for the royals, he talks about feeling pressured to outwardly accept her for his father's PR game, that would be what the kids call a bummer for Camilla's decades-long press rehabilitation. With the Queen looking increasingly frail and withdrawing from many public-facing engagements, the royal landscape might look very different in November, so the timing of Harry's book release could be problematic for Team Camilla. We also have to talk about the difference in treatment between those who play the press game and those who don't, because it's no secret that Camilla has played the game, and by giving the press what they want, she has received more beneficial treatment. We can all recall the tabloid press rota lamenting that they would have treated Meghan better if they had only, quote, gotten to know her better. Which, if that sounds abusive to you, that's because it is. In a world where the British tabloid press almost seems proud of the abuse they hurl at royal women, I think it's fair to ask questions and critique a woman who has played the invisible contract to her benefit, which is what Camilla did. All in all, this announcement came to no surprise to those of us who have been watching the royal space for years. I would like to say that I actually think that this announcement is mostly about Charles not wanting to be the first king with a princess consort and less about Camilla really at all. Watching the palace and Rhoda work together to paint this announcement as being well received, again, it just adds to the evidence that so much of the national press in the UK is beholden to the royal family in ways that we both do and don't understand. It also highlights how nervous the palace is about the reign of King Charles III and his Queen Camilla. If they truly thought that this was a popular announcement, Charles would have made it, not the Teflon Granny. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope to see you again next week, and I hope you all have a great weekend. Thanks.